We continue our 5 questions feature today with NC State forward Ven-Allen Lubin. And before we jump into it, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube at Inside Pack Sports. Also, check out the website, www.insidepacksports. For the latest information on NC State athletics, I have Jake McSwain with me once again. And Jake, Ven-Allen Lubin, we know this is a player, before we get into the questions, that is expected to play a major role for NC State this year. Well-traveled. We talked in the Darrion Williams feature about how we feel about Williams's floor. I think if there was another guy on the roster who I felt like had a similar floor, it would be Ven-Allen Lubin. It doesn't get much more of a floor from just basically moving down the road and staying in the same league, right? You kind of know what you're going to get from Ven-Allen Lubin.
Well, it sounds a lot like what we said about Brendan Huntley Hatfield last year.
Oh, there you go.
Just kidding.
Man, correct me. You're right. Do you feel any better, though, about Ven-Allen than Huntley Hatfield?
I feel a lot better. I mean, there's the team makeup and how he was playing and coming on throughout the year. Plus, there's just a lot more his historical success with him. Like, I mean, it's not just last year at Carolina. Like his time at Vanderbilt probably leaves, honestly, for me, probably makes you more excited about him than what he did last year at Carolina. So I think there's definitely more substance to this and some more projectability as you look at Ven-Allen versus Brandon Huntley Hatfield. Both have dashes, though, so, different spots.
Yeah, both have dashes. At least, so maybe since this is with the first name, there might be a better chance. I will add to this, though. The other reason, and I think it's an underrated aspect of why you can feel better about Lubin, he's experienced the transfer part of it. And I really think that might have impacted Huntley Hatfield in a sense of going from Louisville, where, he was at Tennessee before that, but he had to go back to Louisville, and it took him some time to earn a role. And then he kind of went to NC State, totally different role. Ven-Allen Lubin, he's the most well-traveled man maybe in America when it comes to basketball, right? He started at Notre Dame, went to Vanderbilt, then North Carolina, now NC, and each place right away he comes in and he just kind of fits and finds a role. So I think we can feel good about him there. Let's jump into the questions. Initial role when NC State signed Ven-Allen Lubin out of the transfer portal, what was it? I'll let you take this one first.
So I feel like with him, when he signed, his expectation was to come in and be your guy. Like, we all remember the Paul and Bias situation and what went down throughout the course of that transpiration. And so, the role was kind of unlimited. And I think, you were going to ask more of him than Carolina did, probably more than Vanderbilt did, and definitely more than Notre Dame. So just huge expectations around that. And I think people grew into accepting those expectations as far as fans go and people on the boards and stuff, after that signing got made.
Well, think back to Will Wade's initial comments on Ven-Allen Lubin. Remember, he did I believe it was the Tobacco Road event where he was caught on camera, in a sense, kind of mocking the amount of minutes he got at North Carolina. But to your point, that was kind of letting us know they had high expectations for a heavy role for him. I mean, I think he talked about how the minutes were going to be much higher here at NC State. And so I think, from adding him and not being able to bring in Mbaya, the expectation was he's going to play a major role, be a starter for you at that 5 position, play a ton of minutes, which leads us into the question number 2. What about now? Now that you see NC State, and really he's been one of the guys. I mean, I think since they added him, they went out and got Scotty Ebube from Wyoming as a transfer, who's more of a true 5. You add Musa Sanya, who's a 5 and a 4, maybe even a 3, according to Wade. So you've added other pieces there. I don't know how much that really changes my outlook for Ven-Allen. Like, I do think Ebube, I don't think Ebube impacts that. I feel like what they want to do is they have a well-defined role for Lubin in terms of whether that's 25 to 30 minutes a night at the 5, great. That other 10 to 15 you can give to Sanya, and then you can find another 10 or so for Sanya elsewhere maybe, to where you can still get him to his minutes. So I don't really think the roles change much for Lubin despite adding 2 players at his position.
No, and I think if anything, the role expands in unique ways. And by that, I mean, if he is like your 5 and you're taking him off the court for foul trouble or for when he's just too gassed to come off the court, then he's got to play a little differently, right? I mean, he's going to be guarding the other team's best big man all the time. He'll probably be setting a lot of screens, being that rim crasher that you need, and that's going to be what the role is. But as soon as you have another competent piece that you can play alongside of him and mix in a Darrion Williams and some other pieces on the court with them, then that allows him probably to tap into that shooting ability we saw at Vanderbilt a little bit more. It probably allows him to do some things, not all the time and not for, extended stretches maybe at first, but it allows him to tap into that a little more easily, just because he's not going to be tasked with just burning out on these certain parts of the game that you're relying on him for. So, Sanya for me is that biggest piece because they're so similar and can probably play together. That's going to allow him to maybe get some minutes at a more of a stretch spot than maybe he would have been before. So if anything, I think what's changed is those expectations might shift and give him some more freedom.
Question number 3, what is the best case scenario for Ven-Allen Lubin? Look, I think he is a guy, in my opinion, when I think with NC State's team, I could see him being State's second highest scorer. Mm-hmm. I think the minutes are going to be there. I think the role's going to be there. I think everything around him in terms of playmaking, I don't know how to label it, attention seeking, right? Like what I mean by that is this is not a guy who I expect to be 1 or 2 on NC State's scouting report for the opposition in terms of, because I think he can play off of others so well. It's hard to really game plan for those types of guys. So I think he's going to be able to go out and get his numbers fairly easily. So for me, best case scenario, I see a player being State's second best scorer. And honestly, if NC State hits a potential projection of being a 1 or 2 or 3 team in the ACC, he could find his way on the back end of a third team All-ACC or honorable mention All-ACC player, in my opinion.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's really interesting because more than any player on NC State's roster, I think Ven-Allen Lubin's ceiling is probably tied more to other players than like anybody else. Like for him to reach his ceiling, he's going to need other guys to reach his ceiling, reach their ceilings, because he's going to take advantage of the space that they create. Like if NC State can surround him with 3 to 4 really good shooters and guys make that jump, then he's going to feast. And we talked about it when State was recruiting, Scott from Louisville, right?
James Scott. Yep.
James Scott. Like, I mean, the type of rim pressure that he was able to get just because the way Louisville plays and the space that they create, like that's a role Ven-Allen Lubin can fill pretty easily, but he's going to need other guys to do that because, you can't just put the ball in his hands and expect things to happen. So if NC State has other guys reach their potential, to your point, like you could be looking at, second, third team All-ACC just as a guy who feasts off of being that forgotten piece that has a ton of talent, because you're not asking a guy that it's not like the talent's not there. I mean, but you're going to ask teams to game plan and scout so much more and the other actions going on the court that they're going to lose track of him real easy.
Number 4, what is the worst case scenario for Ven-Allen Lubin? A couple things here for me. One, we mentioned this on the Darrion Williams feature in terms of showcasing more. Well, we've heard speculation, and Wade has talked about it over the last couple months, that they're going to maybe ask Ven-Allen to shoot more from the perimeter, for instance, and be more of a threat at the 3-point line. Well, what if that doesn't work, right? What if that impacts his numbers? What if that's something they want out of that position and he can't provide it? And what if, say, a guy like Sanya can provide it in terms of floor spacing? Does that change his role? When you start thinking, or at least for me, when I start thinking about worst case scenarios, it's more about what could impact his role to where he can't hit what we're expecting him to hit. And I think the worst case scenario for Ven-Allen, it would be a guy like Sanya coming in and being basically too good to keep out of the rotation.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, when you factor in his potential defensive impact, and then that would also take other guys hitting too, right? Like you like what you're getting from Arsenault. You like what you're getting at the 2, to where you really want Sanya on the floor. So worst case scenario would be Moussa Sanya, I think, having maybe a larger role than we're expecting at that position.
Yeah, well, and not just Moussa Sanya. I think there's a lot. Like it ties in so much to what I was saying about his ceiling, is that the worst case for Ven-Allen Lubin personally is probably the best case for NC State as a team. And that's not a knock on him, because I think he's definitely part of a best case picture for NC State as well. But if you think about it, and I know that we just did the Darrion Williams video, which is out by now. If you have guards that step up and you can't keep them off the court, like Matthew Abel goes gangbusters, Paul McNeil is playing really well. Hell, Allen Breed is contributing to the point where you have to give him a very defined role, and Holloman. And then Darrion can't play as much at those guard positions because it doesn't make as much sense. And then Sanya comes on as well. Then you're looking at a role where Ven-Allen Lubin's probably a little marginalized as far as the ceiling that he can have. But that's comforting for NC State fans, because you look at a floor, and I think it's from a stats and usage and percentages perspective, that floor is very likely last year at UNC. Like, I mean, worst case scenario, this is what you're going to get. A guy that defends the well, can provide that rim pressure, hustles, does a lot of the dirty work, and you're fine with that if you're NC State.
Yeah, maybe those minutes are 20 or 15 to 20 versus 25 to 30 because of the stuff we're referring to. The other aspect I wanted to add in this worst case is a guy like Jerry Dean. Before NC State added Sanya and Ebube, we talked at length about, well, can you get Dean some minutes at the 5 as a stretch 5 and play him some and use his shooting around Williams? Like, I think that's still a lineup I would be looking to go to for 5 minutes or so a game, 5 to 10 minutes a game. I would love to see that on the court.
Yeah. And again, like the worst case for Ven-Allen Lubin personally, like that only happens because really positive stuff is happening for NC State. Like otherwise, he's gonna have the role that's more closely tied to the best case scenario for him personally.
Question number 5, the final projection for Ven-Allen Lubin. What are our final expectations for Lubin? For me, I think it's going to be the floor. I think this is going to be a player who, if I had to give you numbers right now, Jake, I think he's going to average around 26, 27 minutes a night. He's going to give you around 12 points, 6 or 7 rebounds a night, and shoot at a really, really efficient clip. Because frankly, if you look at his college numbers, that's been who he was. And I think adding what they've added might ultimately end up impacting his potential ceiling, because I don't see him being a 30 to 35 minute a night player because of these other options they have. And so if you're looking at counting stats, I don't think they're going to be what they could be if he played a few more minutes. But still, the floor is really, really good for him.
Yeah, and I would say that if I was like to put pen to paper and have projections out there that I was going to put money on, like I think he's going to be more closely aligned to yours, which is probably more closely aligned to the floor of his expectations, or what he could produce if he had a monster role. But I think that that's also factoring in that he is going to be a presence within the locker room, within the team. Like, he seems to be a guy that is capable of filling that kind of glue, like really talented glue type player. So, I think we're aligned on that one.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be viewed as a knock that we don't think he can maybe hit his ceiling. I think it speaks to what NC State's added, because I think to be one of these top teams, you need these other options to hit as well. Right? Like you can't just go out there and not have these other pieces work and hit the ceiling that you're expecting if you're NC State. So we both feel really, really good about the expectation for Ven-Allen Lubin. We think he is going to be one of NC State's better players this year. I said it earlier. I think he has the potential to be a back-end all-conference player, given his role and given NC State's potential success. So we hope you all enjoyed this feature. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe here at YouTube at Inside Pack Sports, and also check out the website www.insidepacksports.com for the latest information on NC State athletics.